Alright guys, you may ask yourself why I'm out here in the shop holding some cloth, a big wad of cloth right here. Well, I have a vision, and no, it's not a vision of sugar plums in my head. What it's a vision of is ever since I've done the wetland shelter, I've always had an envision of a way of setting that shelter up a lot quicker and having something that I carry with me. So what I've come up with is I'm going to make a shelter that is called a tree tent. Okay, so now I got me a sewing machine, I got my cloth, and I got a few ideas in my head. So let's go over here to the drawing board. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of this stuff that I've drawn out right off the bat to kind of let you know what's going on, because it'll be really confusing following step by step. But what this basically is going to be is it's going to be like shaped like an old-fashioned tent, and the sides will be cloth. The bottom will be cloth, and it's going to be held by 3 pieces of rope. And you can see I got, these are trees drawn right here, okay? These are the trees, and the black is the rope, and the green is the tarp tent. And what it is it's going to have a bunk part made out of cloth, tied with 2 pieces of rope to a tree, okay? And it's going to go all the way through and tie to the tree. And then up top, it's going to have a piece for the ridge line that holds the roof up, okay? Now, right over here, this is going to be an end view of it. This may not make sense, but it'll make more sense a step at a time. But see the black dots, this is an end view. This is where the rope is going to go. And then this is where the cloth is going to be. Now, some of you may ask, why am I doing this? And some of you may also ask, what's it going to be the difference in this and a hammock? Okay, well, the main difference in this and a hammock is going to be the simple fact that when you get into a hammock, you get into a hammock from the side. This, you're going to be able to crawl into the end. And see, which makes it cool, because this thing can be any height off the ground. Because like out on the end here, you could even set up a rope ladder of some kind and be able to climb up high. And this tree tent can be over closer to a tree where the opening is. Okay, now another thing is a hammock is tied to 2 trees. Okay, so the way this is, okay, this is a side view. Okay, now this is a top view. Okay, now you get the idea. The black lines are the rope, and this is the tree. Okay, you get, now if you had a hammock tied up, you would tie 1 rope to each end. Okay, now the way this is you're going to have 1 for the ridge line, and then these 2 ropes right here are going to be for the bunk part on the bottom right here. Okay, so the cool thing is you can tie this to 2 big trees, or you can tie it to several different trees that are in different locations. See, the blue dots stand for the trees. Okay, which I'm going to do some spreader bars from here to here. And what that's going to be is that's going to keep, I'm going to have a spreader bar that the rope goes through, and that's going to keep this part from spreading out too far or from closing in. Because down here, let's say you had these trees that are real far apart, this is going to spread out or it's going to go in. Okay? Alright, now that's enough goofing off. That's enough goofing off showing you, explaining to you what it is. But I think by showing you those drawings, it's going to give you a better idea of how to follow along with this. Because I've gotten so much feedback about do-it-yourselfers that some of these projects that can be done at home, they like to kind of see them step at a time. And this deal with the sewing machine, it's new to me. I haven't done much sewing, so I've done a little bit of research on it. And I got my cloth, I got my rope, I got everything else. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to get started on it. Okay. Alright, now what you can see I've done right here is I got a piece of wood right here. And what I'm doing, I'm going to start from the ground up, but I got to kind of see what I got to work with my cloth. I got 4 feet wide cloth, and I got about, I think it was 16 feet long. I got enough to do 2 of these, but I'm going to do 1 for right now. So what I want to do is I got my height, okay? I got my height set up on the jack stand with a piece of wood. And what I'm doing now, I'm taking my chosen height, and I'm trying to figure out what my spreader bar is going to be. Okay, so it's going to be 2 feet. That way, I'm going to make my spreader bar, and then I can make the bunk after I've got the spreader bar done. got the spreader bars done, and what they are is I've welded them out of lightweight aluminum. Okay. Now, the rope is going to go through the little eyelets here. Now, this goes. There's going to be one spreader bar on each end, and what it's going to do, it's going to keep everything from bunching up this way or everything from getting spread out too far. Now, if you're going to make something like this at home and you're going to just tie it to two big trees and the rope's going to come straight out, it ain't no big deal. You can skip this step. And, you know, especially if you don't have access to a aluminum welding machine. But I'm using these because I may be tying to trees that the rope's going to be spread out the trees may be spread out real far, putting pressure, pulling one way. So I'm using these on each end, and I'm going to make them to where they slide on and off the rope. That way, because in the future I plan on actually making this part of a frame for a backpack too. But, you know, that comes later on. This is a first time tree tent for me. Oh, and this cloth, the bottom cloth, I'm going to show you tomorrow. I'm out of time today, but I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to sew it. But the bottom is going to be a cotton, and this top is a polyester that stretches. That way, when it gets pressure on it, it won't rip. So, anyway, we're going to start sewing tomorrow, and we'll be done with this top part here for a little while. All right, I got my bottom cloth cut. Okay, now, instead of going over everything I'm going to do, I'm just going to go through everything just one step at a time so that you can see how it progresses. Now, what I've started with is 75 inch by 53 inch. Okay, one step at a time, because I put a lot of thought into this, and I've changed it several times, and I think I got a design that I want. But the first thing I'm gonna do is right along this edge right here. I'm gonna flip it over, and I'm gonna I don't know if you call it a hem or what, a hem or a fold, but I'm gonna sew down the edge. Okay, that's the first step. Alright, I'm in here at the sewing machine now, my other manly tool. Alright, and if you're going to take on a project like this, any kind of outdoor project, what you want to do is you want to get some, this is 100% nylon. See if we can zoom in on that. 100% nylon upholstery thread. And you can see that's some pretty thick stuff. Okay, now, one thing you want to do is to keep from having to stop and rethread your machine. I go ahead and I filled up a bunch of these bobbins, okay, with the same color thread. Because I'm going to use a bunch of these because this stuff's very, very thick. I don't know if you can tell or not, but this nylon is, you can kind of get an idea. Yeah, that's some very, very thick thread. But anyway, I got some extras of those run up so that I don't have to stop and rethread the machine. And I got some 116 needles. You need a good heavy needle for this. And like I say, the cotton will dry rot if you use the cotton thread, regular old thread. So, all right, let's get started on this. All right, now, as you can see right here, I think you can see I've got an edge right here. See how I got a neat crisp edge right here folded over? The way I did that is with an iron. And iron is another manly tool, but I didn't want to show that on this video because I didn't want to show too much manliness. But anyway, what you do is you push down the presser foot, and you'll start the thread. And I use this presser foot right here as a guide. Okay, now I'm gonna back this thing up. This is what they call locking the thread. Okay, and you can see this right here. I don't know if you can tell or not, but how I've got this nice fold right here. You know, that's where I ironed it. So, all right. So I'm gonna sew this thing up, this edge up like this. Now, like I say, I'm not trying to win a beauty contest. I'm trying to make something to sleep in the woods. Alright, now let me show you one more thing right here about this reverse stitching, and then I'm not going to show you anymore. You go all the way towards the end. Okay. Alright, now what you got to do is there's a button over here that you hit. It's called reverse stitch. And it backs it up. That's called locking the stitch. And then you just run this on out. Okay. Ain't that neat? Then you can lift up your presser foot. And then you cut this off right here. Okay. And then you got a nice edge on it. Okay, that's my first edge. 100% nylon thread. I know it looks sloppy, but it'll keep it from unraveling. And I'm not trying to win a beauty contest. Alright. Okay, here's the next step. Now, I've got this, I don't even know what you call it on the end. I should have looked up the terminology. I guess a hem, I don't know. But I got it laid down. Okay, now I'm going to fold this thing over. Alright. Now what I'm going to do, okay, I got this thing folded over, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew it all the way down the edge, just like you would a pillowcase, okay? But I'm like sewing it inside out, okay? As you can see, this part here, the rough part is going to be on the outside, okay? That's what I'll sew next. Alright, now, I don't know how the real experts do it, but whenever I'm sewing two edges together like this right here, what I do is I just tape the ends together. And then as I'm feeding into the sewing machine, I'm removing the tape. That way I don't have a big bunched up mess and it stays even. Like I said, this ain't a sewing video. And I'm not trying to win a beauty contest. I'm just doing as best as I can. Okay, one thing that I left out, you know, I said that I did that seam on one side. Okay, well, I forgot to say, I wasn't thinking, because I was thinking of the old design, but I put a seam on the other end too. Okay, so what it is basically now is it's like a tube that I've got sewn up, because I sewed the end. See if I can find it. Okay, so I got the end of it sewn together now, so it's like a tube. Okay, so what you want to do now is turn it inside out. I'm gonna turn it inside out. Okay, and what I want to do, so you can see now, it's got a nice looking seam on it here. It's got a nice seam on it where it's seamed together. I got that magic marker mark on it, and then I've got a nice edge on it. Okay, but now basically what I'm going to do now, let me lay it on the ground right here. What I'm going to do, hold on, let me cut this off. What I'm going to do now is I got that thing laid out there, and what that's going to be is that's going to be the bottom part of the bed, and it's like a big tube now. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in on this side 1 inch. Okay, and then I'm going to put a seam right down through here full length, and then right here I'm going to come in 1 inch and I'm going to put a seam down it. Okay, that way this will be the place for the rope to feed through. So that'll be the next step, and then I'll do something with the ends. And what I'm doing right here is as I'm doing this end right here, I got me a piece of tape here as a guide that I'm lining the fabric up with. Alright. let's see. Okay, you can see now what I've got is I've got the end sewn up all the way down the end. I got both ends sewed up, so I got a little tube right here where the rope is going to feed through. The rest of it is still an opening. Okay, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with that next. Alright, back on the floor. Now, I got each end right here. I got each end here done. I got these little holes right in here for my, where the rope is going to feed in. And then it's like a big tube right here now. Okay, so what the next step is I'm going to take some of this insulation right here. It's real thin insulation. See, I think it's probably like maybe 1/2 inch thick, 1/4 inch maybe. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roll some out and I'm going to slide it up in here, and then I'm going to sew it shut, and then I'm going to sew, across about 4 different places to kind of tie it in. It's almost going to look like a quilted blanket. And once I get that in, get that sewn, then I'm going to run the ropes through and run the spreader bars on it, and you'll kind of get a view of what it's going to look like in the end. Now, I'll admit, I don't make quilts. Putting the insulation in here was kind of tricky, and I kind of deleted that part, me putting it in, because there's no foul language in my videos. But anyway, here's another little trick for me to sew across to seal the 2 halves and seal the insulation. I follow tape, gives it a straight line. Alright, as you can see now, what I've done is I got the bottom part done, and I went ahead and fed the rope through each end of it and put the spreader bars on there so that you can kind of get an idea of what the bottom part's going to look like. Okay, now, alright, now let me show you something here real quick, since I got the bottom done, and then I'll show you the next step. Now, like I said, on the bottom of it, these bars here, I didn't want them attached. I want them to where I could take them on and off. That way, they're going to be a part of a backpack in the future. But the idea behind these are, if you tie the ropes to a small tree, it's not going to bunch this up. So it's going to have this as keeping it the maintain distance. And then if you got trees that are real far away, these things can be spread out, and it won't rip this thing apart. Okay. Now, bottom's done. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to the top next. Alright, what I got now is I set my board back up, and I got my floor down there. And what I'm going to do is the bottom of this bed is 6 feet long, and the roof is going to be 8 feet long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut at an angle. I'm just going to fold this back so you can see what I'm going to do, because I'm not going to show you all of this snipping and sewing, because it's just plain old stuff like I was doing before. But this is just to kind of show you the design. What I'm going to do is, you see, you get the idea of what I'm doing here. I'm going to cut this, and then I'm going to hem a seam right down through here so that the roof is going to be 8 feet long. In other words, I'm going to have a foot overhang on the ridge, kind of like a house, you know. It'll have overhang to keep the rain out. So it's going to be just at an angle. I don't know if you can see that or not, but anyway, I'm going to cut that off and hem it up, and that'll be the next step. Snip, snip, and sew, sew. All right. Now, got my top fabric laid out. I'm going to mark it, and I'm going to cut the ends. All right. I laid it out, marked it, and I got it cut. Okay. So I came to the center line right here. I left 2 inches so I can fold it up from my ridge line, and then I came back 1 foot. Okay. So that's what my end is going to look like. That's what I'm starting with. Now I'm going to hem it under. Alright, as you can see, I got this end I got a nice hem on it right here where it won't come unraveled. And I've got it cut at an angle like I want. Okay, so that I've got this little overhang right here compared to where the floor is. I got it set back up on my board, mocked up, so that I can kind of see what I'm doing. Okay, now let me put you over here. All right, now the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this piece to the floor, and what I'm going to do is the end I'm going to take and I'm going to iron under a little seam, and then I'm going to sew it together all the way down. And another thing I'm going to do is up here at the top where the rope is going to feed through, I don't want this just hanging over the rope. I'm going to stitch this closed so that I can feed the rope through. That way I won't have the rope just dangling around in there for whenever I want to set this shelter up at night. And I'll have me a fixed ridge line. So let's sew all this into one piece, and then I can start on the ends. I got a rope clamp there, a rope clamp there, and a rope clamp there to my garage door. And why? Because ta-da! Alright, I got it sewn together. That's one end of it. Okay. You can see I got the floor in it. Got that bar right there, and there's the floor right there. I got it sewn in finally. This is all one piece. Okay? You can see what that bar does. If these ropes are at different angles, it maintains that distance. Okay? So now I got to work on the ends. So let's go to the other end. This end is going to have a zipper door, and the other end is going to have a fixed door, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that while I'm making it. All right, now you can see I got these three ropes right here, and then I got the ropes at the other end all stretched out on my garage door and up here on my shelves and things. Now this bottom's not going to sag when I've actually got it out in the woods, because these ropes here are going to be pulled real tight, and it's going to stretch everything. Now, a little bit about the end here. I'm leaving a little gap up at the top, and later on, what I'm doing is I'm measuring for the ends, and this end's going to be solid, and it's going to come down at an angle. I'm measuring from here to here and here to here. I'm not going to bring the end up inside. I'm going to have it all the way out here. And up at the top later on, I don't know if I'm going to sew in a piece of Gore-Tex or a little piece of like fish net for ventilation up at the top. But I'll show you. I've already measured this, and I have cut out this piece of fabric, okay, at an angle, okay. Now the deal is, the bottom is done with cotton and it's insulated, okay. The top is done with a polyester material, polyester blend. Now the deal with the polyester blend is you got to remember something. With these bars and with the ropes going this way, that shelter is never going to stretch this way or this way, but the height of it is going to stretch. The height of it this way is going to stretch when I get into it relative to the ridge line. So this material doesn't stretch in two directions. Doesn't stretch that way, okay? But it does stretch this way. See? Now you got to remember that if you're going to make one of these, this part right here stretches. It stretches this ways, okay? It won't stretch this ways. Now remember that. Okay, now I'm not going to waste any more time with showing you the sewing in the house, but basically I'm going to do this like I did everything else. I'm going to fold it over, okay? I'm going to fold it over, and then I'm going to iron it flat, okay? I'm going to do it all the way around, because there's going to be a seam at the top right here folded over. It's going to be sewn right there, and it's going to leave my little gap up at the top right in here. And later on I'm going to sew a piece in there for ventilation, and I'll have to do that by hand. But anyway, this is going to be my solid end, and then I'm going to do the other end, but there's going to be a zipper in it. So you know, basically this is what it's looking like so far. I'll give you a peek on the inside of it. See the inside? Don't that look cozy? Alright, I'm gonna go and get this end sewn, and then I'm gonna feed the rope. I gotta pull the rope out, sew the ends, and then put the rope back on. Then we'll be ready to go into the woods. Okay. Oh, and if you wonder why I'm changing shirts every day, it's because I'm working on this off and on when I can over a period of like 2 to 3 weeks. This is taking forever. All right, let's go in the house and get sewing. All right, as you can see, I got the piece cut out, and I've got it folded over. Okay, this is the back piece. Now, at the top, I've got it seamed up. Okay, now this is going to be the back. For the front, what I'm going to do, I got the bottom here completely sewn up, and then I got the top sewn up, and then these sides I just got them hemmed over. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cut it. I got these lines right here. I'm going to cut it right down the middle, and I bought a zipper. Okay, and I'm going to put a zipper right in here, and that'll be my door. All right, there you go. I got this part done right here. I made it to where it'll zip from the inside. Now all I gotta do is sew the ends on, and I'll be ready to hit the woods. Alright, I got the end sewn on. We're getting towards the end. Next thing that I'll do, I'm going to take it out first and try it, but I'm going to put some 3M Scotch Guard on it to get it waterproof. Okay, now I got the end sewn on. Now I'm going to show you something real quick, just to kind of keep you from being aggravated in case you try to do this, because this is a do-it-yourself project. Alright, the rope, the way you feed the rope through is you tape it to a welding rod, or if you don't have a welding rod, cut you up a coat hanger and polish up the end so that it's nice and round and it don't cut into everything you just made. Okay, and all you do is feed it in. Okay, once you get it fed in, then you just take it and you scoot it through. Okay, and that's how you get the rope fed through. Okay, so I'm gonna feed the rope through. I'm gonna hit the sack, and then we'll be ready to take this baby in the woods tomorrow, cause it's done. This right here looks like a good spot right here to test this thing out, because it's real uneven up here, and the trees are spread out real far. So I'm gonna lay it out right here in the middle here, and we'll see how it works right here on this uneven ground with all these trees spread out real far. Alright, this looks like a pretty good spot right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how I got this thing packaged up. I got it in an old, I can't even remember the name of it. It's one of those modular sleep system carriers, I guess. It's a little more of what's known as a compression sack. Okay, but let's see how this thing looks.
Looks like something's heavy in it.
Yeah, it's a kind of heavy thing. Before I get a bunch of complaints about it, yes, the whole outfit is 8 pounds. Now I think I could make less if I could change the way this aluminum poles are set up. But Someday when I make an insulated version, it'll be a little heavier. But basically, you just put it on the ground and roll it out. Now, I got a couple of presents. A friend of mine, Ian, I think his YouTube name is IB516. He sent me a real nice lightweight tarp cover, reflective blanket on the inside. I'm gonna use that to demonstrate one of the tricks of this shelter. And another thing is the rope on this thing right here is my green camo rope, military grade. Now the ridge line, for whenever I do the ridge line at night, what I did is I did the ridge line out of black rope. Now this black rope is, you know, that way I can tell the ridge line from the other lines. Now my friend TJ, I think his YouTube name is Corum Emmys. He sent me a package with a bunch of other stuff. I'll show in some other videos. And this rope right here was in it. Thank you, TJ. I'm putting it to good use. But anyway, now I thought about to save weight in the future. I thought about doing a ridge line out of paracord. But anyway, let me tie all this up and stretch everything out and get it to where I can talk about it a little bit more. Okay? All right. We'll be back with you in a minute. All right, now, I'm just going to show you one time how I tie these to stretch it out good and tight. There's no reason to show you all 6 of them, but basically what I do is I put it around a tree like this right here, and then I pull one hand while I got it like that, and then I just wrap with whatever rope I have left. Okay, now what I do, take it and I loop it over the top twice. Okay, loop it over the top twice, then I feed back through, and then I come through what I just did. Okay, now technically that's a taut line hitch because it'll slide. Okay, now if you come around this way, I got tied off to one tree here. I got the ridge line, unfortunately I tied it off to that skinny tree, and then I got the other part of the bunk tied off right there. Now if you look at the front, you can actually see how I've got it done. This should actually be a lot tighter. Okay, now you can see I got it stretched out here. There's an angle here. Now this is going to be a problem right here. Rain is going to come in right here, so I'm going to have to figure out something. And I think what it is, when this stuff is stretched out a lot tighter, I think this is going to go in. Okay, but you can see how this out here works. The ropes would literally rip the tree tent apart if this wasn't on here because of the angle of the trees. It's always better if you can find them straight, but I went ahead and did this anyway. And see how it zips up. It zips up in the from the inside. That way, once I get in there, it'll I'll be able to get in and zip myself up on the inside. So I'll give you a shot of the inside here in a little while, but for now, let's go to the back side and take a look. I want to show you something else. Another little trick I designed into it. All right, now, see, here's another issue here because I never have slept in this, never have put it on trees. The ridge line needs to be in the center line because you can see it's got it pulled over and it's left a gap here for the rain. The ridge line needs to be pulled up nice and tight. And I'm going to have to retie this thing before I sleep in it tonight because this is going to be an issue if it rains. Okay, but I plan on working on that later on anyway. I wasn't through with that part. Now this is the cool part that I designed to this thing. Trees can be real far apart, unlike a hammock, because a hammock you need to be pretty close together, but you got 3 pieces of rope holding you up here, so you can have trees that are far apart. Now something else you can do, you can pull this, okay, and you can see that you're going to have 3 pieces of rope here reasonably parallel. Now, this is something else I thought about. If it's going to be snowing, maybe raining, okay, all right. Now, of course, I would bungee cord this up. Now, see, as you can see now what I've got here. Are you too close? You can see it. Okay, now what you see now here is once I've got this thing, once I've got this pulled up, I've got an area right here to where underneath it I could build a fire. okay? And I could be under here cooking. Cause see, I'm actually using the rope that I've set up for my tree tent, and I can use it for a roof for cooking and have a fire down there. Now, the cool thing is, after I'm done eating, I get some of these rocks around here and throw the rocks on the fire and let them heat up while I'm eating, okay? Now, because there's rocks everywhere, big rocks all over the place. Now, what I do now is pull this off. You can see a rock right there. Pull that off, and check this out. This is the cool part. Since the rope is fed, here, watch this, Nick. You just grab the top, and you just pull the whole thing down. See? Ain't that cool? Now see, there's another issue there with the ridge line being off to the side. But basically what I can do is, since I had a fire built there and I've thrown rocks on it, now, see, I just slide this down, okay? Now what I'm gonna have is I'm gonna have all those warm rocks underneath this thing. Sound cool? So it's gonna be a great place. I can have a roof and I can have a place to eat. So it's looking good so far. Now, I don't like this ridge line. I gotta retie it before I get in, okay? So let's retie this real tight. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go out further to that bigger tree, and then we'll climb into it and I'll give you a real laugh. Alright, now as you can see, I got this retied right here. I got it tied up where it's pretty parallel right here and pretty tight. Something else you'll notice. Now this is going to sag down when I get in it. That's just the way it is. But something else you'll notice is it's at an angle, and that's because the zipper end is where my head's going to be. My feet's going to be down there, so I want to be at an angle this way. Now, right here, if you'll notice, I got this one rope that is it's at an angle again, and it's not parallel like the other end. So that's another reason for having this thing right here, because
I'm guessing it might be because we're on a hill.
Yeah,
there's a hill over there.
Yeah, and there's just trees everywhere. You can't pick the right trees every time. But this would rip. This would literally rip this thing apart, because you've got nothing but cloth right here. Another reason for that. Okay. All right. Now, what I'm gonna do? I got to get out some stuff right here. That's the wrong pouch. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hang up my old backpack here on the tree. Then I'm gonna be ready to crawl in. Alright, now I'm not gonna sleep in my jacket, because my jacket I've been wearing all day and I kind of sweated in it. Not to mention, I got a blanket. So, let's see. Alright. Now I promise I haven't got into here yet, and this is going to be the first time I'm going to climb in. I didn't bring a pillow, but I do have my blanket, so I'm going to crawl in now.
Wait, show us what's in the blanket.
What do you mean show you what's in the blanket?
Show us what's in it. It's Christmas.
What if I don't want to show you what's in the blanket?
Show us.
Alright, I've got my blanket. It gets kind of scary up here on the mountain, so I brought with me my survival claws given to me by my best friend. Are you getting this? Is this close enough? Survival claws has got on his full camouflage. He's got his map, he's got his compass in his bag, and of course his safety orange vest. So yes, survival claws does exist. If you want to get knives, tarps, and rope and boots for Christmas, be good. Alright, in you go. Alright, let's move this camera around to the front here so y'all can catch me climbing in. Alright, I just wanted to show you the inside of this thing before I crawl in it. Okay, you can see survival claws is down there in the end of it. Got a nice padded floor. And there's the other end of it. Alright, now it's time to crawl in. Alright, we've taken this thing through the woods and tied it up in a few different places to kind of see how it's going to work. And it's starting to get dark, so I just want to get this thing settled and over with so that I can make sure I can sleep in it tonight. Now, honestly, I haven't even crawled in this yet. This is going to be a first for me. So I'm going to go in feet first with no boots. Okay, I'm going to have my boots right here, and I should be able to reach them and tie them up under it. Okay, so as usual, I'll just take my boots off, and I got my olive drab socks here.
As we know, in every video, I comment and say, he sure does love his olive drab.
That's right.
When he shows the olive drab.
That's right. All right, dudes, well, here goes. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 foot in. Now, this thing is going to sag pretty bad. Okay? I'm going to hold on with my 2 arms right here. Put my other foot, walk myself in. Okay? Oh, there it goes. Oh, there we go. Scoot my way in. Oh, there. There we go. Now, it did sag down, but it is not touching the ground. That's all that matters, okay? Let's see if I can zip this up. I don't know if I can zip it up or not. This has been the first time I've ever done it.
Well, if you can't, of course, later tonight, when we're spending the night here, and I'm in my hammock over there,
yeah,
I could just come over here and zip it up for you.
Can you? I think the main thing's me being able to zip out of it. Let's see. There we go. Oh man, this is comfortable. Woo!
Woo!
I got a little peephole. Woo! All right,
yeah.
I got my blanket. I got my survival clothes. All right. Well, it worked. I love it. This is gonna be great. See, all I got left now to do when I go home is Scotch guard it. Hey, it's actually warmer in here. This is cool. Well, all right, guys, like I always say, till next time, I'll see you. Oh. See if it's easier to get out of. Oh.
You made it.
I made it. Nothing to it. Okay. I had to show myself crawling out of it that it didn't rip. So, all right, now, till next time. See ya. Let's eat, Nick.
I'm hungry.
Oh.